Welcome to the Fate and Football DraftKings Week 3 Cash Game Picks. This should be a really interesting week. The DraftKings pricing is really tight. There's not a lot of really obvious value picks. And there's lots of different ways you could go with this slate. So let's dive in. Starting at quarterback. If you're looking to spend up at quarterback, I really like Matt Ryan this week. He's cheaper than Brady, who has a tough matchup in Houston. Drew Brees is on the road in Carolina. A lot of times I'd really prefer Aaron Rodgers, but Jordy's potentially out. Both the tackles on the O-line are out. Randall Cobb has been out, or is looking like he's probably going to be out. So, things aren't lining up particularly well for Aaron Rodgers. So, why not take the discount and go to Matt Ryan? Alternatively, if you're looking to spend down, we've got Matthew Stafford, who's in a great matchup with Atlanta. Figures to be a high-scoring affair. The Vegas over/under is quite high. And, neither of these teams are particularly good on defense. Matthew Stafford's got lots of weapons with Kenny Golladay, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and Eric Ebron. So you can't, he's got lots of places to throw the ball. At about the same price, we've also got Kirk Cousins at $6,100. Kirk Cousins really struggled the first two games of the year, but nothing could remedy that like Oakland's suspect pass defense. I really think that perhaps they've just been a little bit unlucky with their reworked offense with the addition of Terrell Pryor, who hasn't quite clicked. So I think good things are ahead for Washington, but it does feel a little bit riskier. That said, it is a great matchup. Looking to spend down, you can go with the player you see here, Deshaun Kizer. Hopefully he can auto himself out of the friend zone and find his way into the end zone. He played Baltimore last week. They are a good team against the pass, so, watching him struggle, really not that surprising. But nothing can remedy that quite like Indiana. They have not been good. They have been awful in every way. 27th in the league in DVOA against the pass. So nothing remedies that like that. So depending on where I go roster construction wise, I'm thinking that firing up Deshaun Kizer might not be a bad move. That extra savings allows you to spend a little bit more money elsewhere. Moving on to running back. So, top of the board is Le'Veon Bell with David Johnson out. I think this could be the week for Le'Veon Bell. First week, he's coming back. He held out through training camp. And so, you couldn't expect him to really have his full workload. Second week, he rushed 27 times. He had 4 receptions. I mean, he did only have 13.1 fantasy points to show for his efforts, but with that kind of usage, and the talent that Le'Veon Bell has, only good things can come. This is really a prime bounce back spot for Le'Veon. So, I think we could be seeing the return of Le'Veon to form this week. Spending down a little bit, Ty Montgomery, he's a favorite of mine. He's been playing every down basically for Green Bay, one of the best offenses in the NFL. He catches patches. He's been scoring touchdowns. They've been looking to use him in the red zone. Even going back to last year, they were using him in the red zone when they had the opportunity. So with 19.3 DK points last week and in week 1 and 29 DK points in week 2, there's no reason to think that Ty Montgomery is not going to be good in this great matchup with Cincinnati. Game script could easily go his way, and they just hand the ball off to him to run out the clock. Ajayi is also in an unbelievable spot. In their first game against the Chargers, he had 28 carries and 4 targets. I think I don't see any reason why Miami won't just give Ajayi the ball and let him run all over this horrible Jets team. Um, their defense has been suspect. Miami will probably try to control the ball and just run them down with Ajayi. So I see every reason to play him in cash games and also be looking to him in tournaments. Um, Value's been pretty hard to find on this slate. I think Tarik Cohen offers a good amount of value. He has been playing all over the field for Chicago. Jordan Howard just can't catch the ball, and playing Pittsburgh, it's hard to believe that Chicago is going to be in this game. They're going to be throwing the ball, trying to get back into it, and Tarik Cohen's going to be on the field. So yeah, he had 12 targets in week 1 and 9 targets in week 2. So this figures to be a pretty good spot for Tarik Cohen. At $5,000, Javarius Allen. If you're not playing the main slate, could be a good pick. He's low priced. He was very close to a feature back. Terrence West is hurt. He's good in all phases of the game, both running and passing. So if you are playing some of these other slates, I do like Javarius Allen. Wide receiver. AJ Green is the top of my list this week at $8,100. He is in a great spot against Green Bay's terrible secondary. I don't need to tell you how good AJ Green is. I personally think he's amongst the elite receivers, right up there with Julio and Antonio Brown, and he's priced down about $1,000, so below those guys. So I think there's every reason to fire him up this week and put him in your cash game and your tournament lineups. Golden Tate is going to go up against a bad Atlanta secondary. He's a yak monster. He usually gets a good amount of targets from Matthew Stafford. This should be a high-scoring affair, and I think he's a good bet to get a touchdown plus, a good number of catches. So, with the PPR format, I think Golden Tate's a great play for your cash games. Davante Adams. Also in a great spot with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. Jordy is hurting. Randall Cobb's looking to be out. Again, they should be in Davante Adams should be in a good place. They've been trying to get him the ball. It really just hasn't worked out over the first couple of weeks. So I think this could be a prime bounce back spot for Davante Adams. And at 5,600, I mean that's almost 2K lower than where he finished the season last year. So I think that's a really good price on Davante. Jamison Crowder going up against an Oakland D that's struggled over the middle. We would expect Jamison to work out of the slot most of the time. So I really think this is a smash play for Jamison Crowder. I know Washington struggled, but this should be a good bounce back spot in Oakland for at least their offense. Also too, if you do start Kirk Cousins, this would be a nice little stack in your lineup. Finally, looking at value receivers, we got Rashard Higgins. 2 weeks ago he was on the practice squad, and then suddenly he shows up on his first game, sees 10 targets. I honestly I knew nothing about him, so I did pull up his profile on playerprofiler.com and looked him up. Not a lot to get excited about here. He's slow. 4.64 40-yard dash. That's not very good. Definitely still slow, even when we adjust for size with his speed score. Burst, nope, not particularly explosive in any way. Agility score, nope, definitely not agile. Catch radius, 9th percentile, nope, still not very good. Spark X score, just a measure of overall athleticism, 4th percentile. This guy is not an athlete, at least not by NFL standards. But what does get you excited about the Rashard Higgins profile? 43.6% college dominator. I mean, anything over 40% is elite. That's an 86th percentile. Also, breakout age, 91st percentile, below 19 years old of age. So what this really tells us is that no, he is not a great athlete, but he is very good at football. 43% college dominator means he accounted for over 40% of his team's yards when he was in college. So I think he might just be one of these players that is good at football. I mean, Antonio Brown, he was drafted in the fifth round, much like Rashard Higgins here. So there is reason to believe that Rashard Higgins might be able to play. That said, I mean, we are basing this on one performance with the Cleveland Browns, so take that for what it's worth. Tight end. I personally think tight end, there's not a lot of ways to go this week. Generally, you want to spend down at tight end, and given the pricing everywhere else, I think it's basically a must this week. Your two options are Eric Ebron or Jared Cook, priced at $3,200 and $3,100 dollars a piece. Ebron, he had his first touchdown since recess in November 2003, according to my sources. So things are looking up. Ebron was a great prospect and drafted very highly. So tight ends take a while to develop, and I think this could be the tipping point for Eric Ebron, and this may be one of those situations where it makes sense to get on a player who's cheap, and if he does proceed to break out this year, we could be looking at Ebron in the 5,000s at the end of the year. So I definitely see a strong case for playing him in this matchup with Atlanta. Jared Cook. Also well underpriced. I think the argument for Jared Cook has to do with Washington having two really good corners with and a good secondary with Josh Norman and company. You could see Oakland's game plan being exploited in the middle of the field and looking to get the ball to Jared Cook. So I think Jared Cook could be in a really good spot too. I couldn't fault you with going with either of these options. I personally think it's kind of a coin flip. I'll almost certainly be looking to one of these two players. Defense. Generally, in cash games, I'm okay with paying up at defense. Really just kind of looking for the cheapest defense that's going to give me a safe floor and allowing me to get the other players I want into my lineup. So top of the list, we've got at 3,600 the Denver Broncos going up against Buffalo. They are on the road, but I'm not sure this matters. Buffalo is terrible. They had a great game plan last week. They basically sold out on stopping the run and let their corners take care of the receivers with Des Bryant and company, and said basically try to run it on us and then you got to throw it and try and beat us. And Dallas just couldn't do it. And Buffalo, their offense is nowhere near as good as Dallas. All respect to Shady McCoy. But so I think the Broncos are in a great spot to put a lot of pressure on Buffalo and score some points. The Steelers going into Chicago. Chicago's offense is not very good. Mike Glennon is not very good. The Steelers like to dial up blitzes. I think with the blitzing Steelers team going up against Mike Glennon, under pressure, lots of good things could happen, whether they be sacks or interceptions. So I think the Steelers have a good amount of equity, especially touchdown equity. So relative to some of these other defenses. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers were the highest scoring defense this week. Bucs going against Minnesota without Sam Bradford. The Minnesota offense looks to struggle. I think it makes a lot of sense to go with the Bucs, especially if they're strong showing last week. Finally, we've got the Eagles at home against the New York Giants. Like Eli can smell there. They've stunk. So I think the Eagles, despite some injuries in their secondary, are in a pretty good place here against the New York Giants. Thank you very much for watching this week's Cash Game Preview. Best of luck with all your games, and check back next week and check my lineup review on how I finally put this all together and the results we had. We'll see you out there on DraftKings. Thanks. Bye.